Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Nicole Trosser. I'm the manager at the Ella Accelerator for Women Entrepreneurs. Our programs help to provide mentorship, hands-on workshops, and a whole community of other entrepreneurs to help support women as they grow their businesses. And every month we host a fireside chat where we invite established entrepreneurs to come in and share their tips and tricks about how to grow a business effectively. Before we start, as this meeting is virtual and we're not all gathered in the same space, I recognize that this land acknowledgement might not be for the land that you're currently on. We ask that if this is the case, you take responsibility to acknowledge the traditional territory that you are on and its current treaty holders. As a member of the York University community, I recognize that many Indigenous nations have longstanding relationships with the territories upon which York University campuses are located that precede the establishment of the university. York University acknowledges its presence on the traditional territory of many Indigenous nations. The area known as Takaranto has been taken care of by the Anishinaabe Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat. It is now home to many First Nation, Inuit, and Métis communities. We acknowledge the current treaty holders, Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. This territory is subject to the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement to peaceably share and care for the Great Lakes region. And now I would like to introduce today's speaker, Melissa Maker. Melissa is the owner of Clean My Space, a cleaning service in Toronto, which she founded in 2006. In 2011, to help drive bookings, she decided to create digital content and launched Clean My Space YouTube channel. Today, the channel has over 1.7 million subscribers, a healthy Instagram following, and a busy website. In today's session, Melissa will be sharing her story, as well as her tips and tricks for making your mark across social media. Please welcome Melissa Maker. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, hello. Just waiting for my camera to start up. Can you see me?
I can see you.
And hear me? Okay, hello.
Hello.
It's great to be here.
So great to have you here and joining us today, and so excited to hear, all about your journey and, how you built a following of 1.7 million followers. Incredible.
Yeah, it is. It's been a ride. I'm excited to share. So what I'll do is I'm just going to share my screen because I put together a bit of a presentation that I hope everyone will enjoy.
Thank you so much.
And just for everyone who's participating, keep your phone handy because I have a few interactive polls that have QR codes. So just open up your browser or open up your camera and it should instantly open a browser where you can participate in the poll. All right. Well, Nicole, thanks for that intro. And today I'm so excited to share this presentation that I've put together called Why Every Entrepreneur Needs to Think Like an Influencer, even though I know that sometimes the word influencer can feel like a bit of a bad word. Sometimes influencers have a bad rap, but I'm going to show you the great side of being an influencer and having a business. All right. Well, social media sells. I know we've heard this before. And today, I really want this, if you're not using it right now, I really want today to be the day that you decide to start using it. A little bit about me. Those are my handles right there. At Melissa Maker, at Clean My Space, at Makers Clean, makers.clean. I should say that's where you can find me. So as Nicole said, I actually graduated from Schulich at York in 2005. And the first job that I took out of school was working at a bank. I had always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And in fact, at Schulich, I studied marketing and entrepreneurial studies, but the bank job was the first job that I got. And I really do think it was the universe's way of telling me, you really need to go into entrepreneurship because I was so unhappy in that job. And I'm sure that some of the entrepreneurs who are in this room today probably felt the same pull toward entrepreneurship. It's just a good reminder that your journey is always easier to understand after you've gone through it. Anyway, so I started Clean My Space out of my true disdain for cleaning, which I still have to this day. I knew other people struggled with cleaning just like I did. So rather than starting a business doing something I loved, I did the exact opposite. And then 5 years later, my husband suggested that we start making YouTube videos as a way to market our cleaning business, because YouTube was owned by Google and it would help our search rankings for our website. It was totally selfish. But then the YouTube channel turned into a whole thing. As Nicole said, it's got over 1.7 million subscribers. We parlayed that into a website that gets heavily trafficked. I am a cleaning expert. I'm in magazines all the time, on TV shows. I'm constantly tapped for cleaning knowledge, which again is really funny because I hate cleaning. And we even turned that into a line of our own cleaning tools, microfiber cleaning tools under the moniker Makers Clean in, I want to say it was 2015 that we did that. And following that in 2017, I had a book come out with Penguin Random House, also called Clean My Space. So all that to tell you, I've done a lot in the cleaning space, especially for someone that hates cleaning. And all of the things you see to the right of the screen happened because I started a cleaning business and I just took advantage of social media at the right time. So let's have a look. I'd love for you guys to participate in this poll. Just scan that QR code. And I just want to take a quick temperature in the room and see what social media platforms you're currently using to market your business. And I'll just wait a couple of minutes to see what comes up. All right. Okay. So I've got 2 more of these coming up, so be ready to go with your phone. I'm just going to give another 5 seconds and then I'm going to move on. But this is giving us a pretty, this is sort of what I expected to see. Interesting. Okay. Well, in today's session, this is really what I want to go over. I want to work through the genesis of social media and how it pertains to brand and business building. Then how to get started in social media. I mean, I could give a 3-hour presentation on that, but I'm gonna try and render it down to the most salient points for you. And then some strategy for how to grow your following, and some different creative things you can do to grow your brand. So let's just see another quick quiz. Have you used social media to guide a purchase in the last 30 days? And I found that since COVID, interesting, I found that since COVID, I've been much more apt to make online purchases. Before I thought, okay, I'm still very happy to walk into a store and look, feel, and touch. But for me, especially, I've just been much more comfortable looking online, watching videos, looking at Instagram reviews, looking at the 3- and 4-star ratings on Amazon or other websites to see how a product does. So it's interesting to see these numbers. Let's just talk about how consumers have changed over the past 10 years than 2 and 1 years. So even when I was in university, all those years ago taking marketing, things have really changed in terms of consumer behavior. And at the bottom, I have a McKinsey report that I found that was so fascinating. I don't have time to get into it today, but I know Maria has this link and she can send this out to you after if you want to review it. But before it was like people went to a store to buy a product or they procured a service because it's what they needed. And there was a little bit more to it. I'm obviously simplifying it quite a bit, but today, the way that people are spending or buying or making decisions, they're looking for not only a product or a service, but that product and service has to bear a story and values, credo, belief system, there has to be something about the product or service that also says something about the buyer. Right? And then also the buyer might be looking for a way to support a person, a cause, or a community. And I found these really interesting statistics. I always love when I find Canadian statistics. They speak so much more to us, often find American stats. But Interact Corp did a survey with Canadians and found that 75% said the pandemic has made shopping and supporting businesses in their community more important. And 55% of Canadians said that their desire to support local businesses was causing them to shift their spending by shopping closer to home. And I think that is such a valuable insight for us as entrepreneurs to have. and to stick it in our back pocket when it comes to thinking about social media. Because when we think about business, what you're seeing here on the screen is actually an incredibly important part of your strategy. And what I want to get into is this concept of the why behind the buy. This is not something that I came up with, but instantly when I heard it, I remember I was watching a YouTube video in my office, probably back in 2013. And as soon as I heard this, I was like, oh yes, I get it. I need a why behind the buy. And it helped me crystallize and understand how my story about who I am and what I do could help my business grow and help my social media following grow. So the why behind the buy is really what you do, how you share your story with a potential consumer that helps them connect with you, the entrepreneur, and you, the brand. So I could have product A with no story and product B with a compelling story. And if product B has a compelling story that lines up with the consumer, even if it's the same product, will most likely want to support this product because it just makes more sense for them and who they are. So it's our job as entrepreneurs to understand the why behind the buy. For me, I hate cleaning. I struggle with it. I know a lot of people feel the same way. So when I put a cleaning service together or a microfiber product line or a book or a video out, I'm constantly using that same story and same language because it's what connects my audience. That's what they get. So what it means for you is to show up where your customers are, find your tribe, and tell your story. And in doing this, you'll create a community of an audience, which in turn becomes a community of customers. So if we think about social media, we know that consumers are shopping online, they're leaving reviews online, they're asking for recommendations online. We saw that in our poll that we did quickly, and they're using search functions on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Amazon, LinkedIn, and YouTube to find products or services that they want to use. And we know that by building a presence, you can create this community. You can create an extension of your brand that you don't need to pay rent for. You don't need a bricks and mortar store. You get to create buzz. I've seen so many brands do cool things with their social media following that generates free buzz. It also makes your brand easier to be found and shared. It gives you collaboration opportunities, and it allows you to have a constant conversation with your customers. Before, it was whomever came through the door, whatever stream of foot traffic you had. Now you have this community, they're present, they're online, they want to interact with you, DMs, comments, they want to share photos with you of their products. And it really gives you this special opportunity to build an audience, which is a customer base. You get to put a mailing list together, you get to build a following, and in that you get to build your business. So am I asking you to become an influencer, you might be wondering right now? Well, let's think about what influencers do. They build a following, they share a unique aspect about their life, they make product and service recommendations, and then ultimately they encourage you to try that. And part of my job, what I've become, some of the work I do is influencer work. I work with brands, I make money through affiliate links, I make money through sponsorship programs that I do with brands, and then I have my other stuff going on as well. And I've been able to do that because I've built this community, but then also as an entrepreneur, we are people with stories to tell. We're creators of these products and services that we've poured our hearts and souls into. And now it's our job to communicate that. We care deeply about our customer experience and causes and things that are important to us. And we want to create that community. So what do these two groups, entrepreneurs and influencers, have in common? They create community. That's what they have in common. So if you've always separated yourself from what an influencer is, no, you as an entrepreneur have to start thinking like an influencer, in that you need to build that community where you're sharing your story, sharing your message, the why behind the buy, so that you can build your brand. The way to do that is through social media. So this slide in and of itself could be like an entire course, but I'm going to try and give you some quick tips. To get started, you want to think about the various platforms that your audience lives on. And for that, just understand the demo of your particular customer base will help you decide what platform makes the most sense for you. So TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat tend younger. Facebook is a little bit older, YouTube, Amazon, LinkedIn, that's sort of across the board. So just think about what makes the most sense. Account, if you already have one, throw in TO for Toronto or NS for Nova Scotia, whatever it is, just find a way that you can make your handle easy to remember, but also localize it if your initial handle desire isn't available. Then you get to design your brand book, you know, the colors, the layouts, the theme, font. You can create a mood board. You can use a program like Canva to do that. You can decide, do I want my pictures to be kind of those in the wild photos, or do I want them to be, you know, more curated and professionally taken photos? That's up to you. Another thing that people need to remember is when you're telling your story on social media, the language that you use, the tone, what you stand for, the kinds of quotes that you put up, all of that is reflective of your brand. So if you stand for a particular cause, think about the language that aligns with that, the quotes that align with that, or what type of inspiration the people who are following you would like to get from you as it pertains to the story that you're telling with your brand. So there's one brand that I follow. They are a clothing company designed by an Indigenous entrepreneur. Make amazing stuff. It's really unique, but they also share interesting tidbits of history that I wouldn't otherwise get. And that is why I keep following them. I've also made a couple of purchases and their stuff is really cool, but I stick around because I learn things, and every now and then something beautiful comes along and hello, there's your customer. So keep me engaged and I will continue to buy. You want to post meaningful content, create hashtags that people can use and tag you with, and then update your website accordingly so people know the handles that they should follow you at. And the platforms they should follow you on, and the hashtags they should be using to get noticed. So things to think about as you build, again, that story of why you started your business. It often resonates with potential customers. So make sure you're doing a really great job at communicating that. Then just think about the look and the feel, the vibe, the voice of your business. Like what would it sound like personified, or look like, or feel like? That can really help you craft what your online presence will look like if you're sort of struggling. Just the way someone might, you know, hire a designer to put their store interior together, you can actually be the designer of what your online presence looks like. And I just want to, the last 2 points here are really important. An engaged audience translates into customers. Engagement means, are they commenting, liking, sharing, saving? And the higher engagement you get, the more sales you can see. I'd love if you can just spend a minute or two just clicking through and saying what business you think has really nailed an online presence. I'll give you guys just a couple seconds because I want to make sure I'm being respectful of our time here. And if we don't get to this particular slide, that's totally okay. Couple that I really love, Smash and Test. If you guys are familiar with that, I think Nix does a great job. I think Joe Fresh does a really great job. So I'm just going to move on because I want to talk to you about 2 ecosystems that we can think about in terms of the way business works. This is kind of how I learned about marketing when I went to university. You've got your product and service there on the left, and then you have traditional marketing methods. You hope to get media exposure, and from that, you're looking to have a good sales quarter and increase your sales, and hopefully you'll get exposure to new customers. But when we think about using social media, I want to show you the potential of what it can do. So if you have a look, you have your traditional marketing that you pay for, and then you have your social media following that you build. Of course, you can also pay to build that through, you know, sponsored posts, leveraging things. We know that, you know, you can also pay. This isn't all entirely organic, but what you get is media exposure, hashtags, tagging, online reviews, unsolicited influencer shares. If an influencer gets their hands on one of your products or services that they love, they will share about it, and that is great for you. That's free. You also get to create this community, and online people love telling people about what they love. You also get to build an email list, which is a saleable, it's something that is a bankable asset. When we put a sale out on our email list. Those are 5-figure days for us. So what do you get from this? Increased sales, exposure to new audience and customers. And you also get sales of secondary or digital products, which I will get into right at the end, because that's also a really exciting one. Let me just go through. I want to touch on collaborations real quick, because this is another thing that brands can do really successfully to get themselves cross-promoted with influencers, or not necessarily a traditional influence, but other influencer, but other people of influence. And it also allows you to work with causes that are important to you. So if you can find ways to collaborate or meaningfully with different people, you can create something really special. I'm not sure how many of you have seen the Joe Fresh, Roxy Earl collaboration. She's all about body positivity, and she came out with this lovely bathing suit that she did in collaboration with Joe Fresh. And that to me is really smart, because Joe Fresh gets to leverage her audience, and they've done some other really successful collabs, and oftentimes they sell out because they're really smart about who they choose to work with. On the top, you'll see Tanya Kim. She's a media personality in Canada. She's a Korean Canadian, and I Toronto Soul, absolutely love. It's a Korean female-owned business. It's a mom and her 3 daughters, and they did this really cool collab with this like dog leash and purse that cool dog moms could wear. Tanya's a dog mom. And it was just like a lovely thing. I believe a portion of their sales went to charity. And even Mama Earth down at the bottom, they did a really interesting idea where they started a charitable arm of their business. And these are all great things that you can do to leverage your story, the why behind you buy, the why behind the buy, that you can then share with your audience. And when your audience sees things like this, it really compels them to support you and to tell their friends. Now, I want to end on multiple revenue streams, because I think that this is a really important one to keep in mind, and it's going beyond your product or service. Obviously, you're an entrepreneur, and your business should be your primary source of revenue. But over the past year and a half, a lot of us have had to rethink how we make money, as the traditional way that we've been operating hasn't necessarily been a home run. So when we think about what we do, we're experts in our field. If you have a skincare line, you probably know everything there is to know about skincare. So not only have you created a beautiful line of products, but you've got some saleable knowledge up there, and you have to find out how to monetize that in the digital space. So by having a social media following, a link in your bio, having a mailing list, and getting people to sign up for that email list, you can now start marketing these additional services to the people in your community. So what could that look like? Well, I created a course a couple of years ago called The Decision Maker, where I teach people how to start their own cleaning business. It's a 4-figure investment that people make. It took me a lot of time, but hey, it was a great digital asset that I still have that sits there and people can buy. We also have an ebook on our website that sells for $6. It's 50 DIY cleaning recipes, whether I'm sleeping, whether I'm cleaning, ironically, doing a daycare run, whatever it is that I'm doing, that thing is sitting there on the website and can earn money. So whether it's online coaching sessions, virtual appointments, ebooks, paid webinars, here's a 1-hour webinar on how to do an at-home facial, it's $50. Hey, like, why not do something like that? Even speaking gigs or consulting work. Think about how you can turn your expertise into dollars by leveraging it in the digital space with your social media following. So I know I went through a lot, and at this point, I'm going to wrap up my presentation and open it up for some questions, which I know Nicole will be moderating.
Yeah, so before we get to the audience questions, we have a couple of questions of our own. So while you guys are listening to this, get your questions ready, put them in the Q&A box, and we'll kind of go through them one by one. But Melissa, you touched on, a lot of the different channels in your presentation, and you touched a little bit on the demographic. What tips do you have for entrepreneurs to help them choose the right channels?
Yeah. Okay. So the most important thing is to understand who your customers are. So the more you can glean from that, the better. And it's interesting because one shakes the other's hands. Like we use a lot of our YouTube analytics or Instagram analytics to understand who's watching. And that in turn can tell us, who's most likely to buy. So even mining your following for that sort of data can be very helpful. The other thing you can do is you can ask your customers to fill out a survey if they're willing to do that, or if you are able to interact with your customers or you've had some sort of face-to-face with them pre-pandemic, you can sort of take a control group of them and use that as your, ideal customer. When I started our cleaning service, I thought about the ideal avatar of a customer. I had a female avatar and a male avatar, and they both had certain jobs, and I kind of built this life about them, and that is exactly who I spoke to. So you can also think about that and think about who are those avatars? Are they in their 40s? Are they in their 20s? Where do they hang out online? And then you can build your following there.
Love that. And tell me about the use of like hashtags, especially for connecting with people who might be doing searches. Do you have any tips for selecting or creating hashtags?
Yeah. So I always get annoyed when I see hashtags that are like 90 characters long. I think brevity is key for hashtags. For us, we try to keep it simple. We use things like cleaning, organizing, clean my space, makers clean, microfiber. So it's just a matter of finding those really generalized ones. And if you're struggling with where to start, you can find people in your space and you can see what they're using as hashtags. If you want to create your own unique one, just remember that it should be short-ish and memorable-ish, and it should be unique enough to you, like not chocolate lover, which everyone's using, but it should be something like, whatever your name is, chocolate, so that it's more unique to you. And there are also a lot of, if you use a program like Later.com or Hootsuite or Linktree, will help you choose hashtags as well. And even search tools like on Instagram and Twitter, you can see what's trending and you can use those if you want to use more generalized hashtags and get yourself found.
Those are great tips. And I think using tools and looking at what's trending is really, really important. You talked about the importance of posting meaningful content to connect with your audience. I'm just wondering, do you have a framework that you use when you're developing content?
So what we do is we do a lot of listening, and listening basically means we see what kind of engagement we get. If we post something and it gets a lot of likes and a lot of comments, then we know more of that. And if we post something and it falls flat, we know, okay, less of that. And then what we always try to do is incorporate that story, because we always want to connect with our audience. And we find in sharing that, it really helps push the content out. So if I posted stuff and I'm like, oh, I'm perfect and this is great and easy, that might be annoying and it's sort of off brand for us. But what we do is we always come from a place of like humility. Cleaning is annoying. I'm not great at it. I struggle with it. Here you go. Here's some tips. Here's some motivational stuff. And like that tends to do really well with our audience. So we just try to stick with what works. And the great thing about social media is it is so adaptable. You can change and agile, like you can change your strategy as you go. If you see something that's working, you can swap it out. It's nice and easy, and it's really a learning experience in the moment.
I love that. And, when we're speaking with companies that come through our programs, we're talking now always about the concept of testing and pivoting, and, hearing that from a very successful entrepreneur like yourself just goes to reinforce those very important concepts. So now I think we're going to kind of pivot a little bit and take some audience questions. They've been kind of pouring in. So I'll go through them one by one. Judy is asking if you know of any communities, apps, or forums where you can look for collaboration opportunities with influencers.
Yeah, it's interesting. There are some that you can like pay to be on, like some platforms like Aspire, IQ, IZEA, IZEA, Influencer is another one. But those are kind of like platforms that you have to, they're like pay to play, right? So you pay to get access, and then they obviously take a cut off the top. That's their business model. And then you have to pay. I think, frankly, Judy, what would work best is if you saw people in your space or influencers who you love that you think might be a good fit. And if you're just getting into this, you can reach out to them directly. Like some people will ignore you, but some people you might strike a chord with. And if you can build a personal relationship with them, they might love doing work with you. I can't tell you how many times that's happened to me. Like Toronto Soul, I met them at a show at a presentation I was doing. And they were just the loveliest girls. They have never paid me $1. Like they'll send me stuff from time to time, but I always talk about them just because I love their story. So you never know if, by just reaching out to someone and trying to establish a meaningful relationship with them, if that can actually be a better way for you to get started instead of paying to play right from the top.
And it's interesting because you talked about the why. So the why doesn't just apply to your customers, but it applies to collaborations and, basically any other kind of big stakeholder groups that you're working with. So
yeah,
interesting how that all comes full circle. Our next question is, with all the noise and buzz of other posts out there on various social channels, it's really hard to be seen. So how do you recommend that entrepreneurs overcome this? Like, what can they do to get seen?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that can easily get people down when they're making their foray into social media. And the thing is, like, starting small and building a small community, like you can have a small community of very engaged people that will help to build your business. And it might not happen today, but maybe you'll hit 1,000 followers in a year. But even if you have 300 followers and they love what you do and they share your stuff and you're creating like meaningful posts and meaningful content and putting products and services out there that they really love. And as I said earlier, sharing a story and a set of values that align with theirs, you can't go wrong. It won't happen right off the bat. It never does. I mean, never say never. It rarely does. So just keep at it. Because it's not like you have millions of dollars of, funding from Silicon Valley. Like, we're not those people. So feel comfortable in the organic growth and just trust the process.
I love that. Our next question comes from Zara. She's asking, do you have any tips for making the most of time invested on social media marketing, specifically for early stage solopreneurs with a couple hours a week to kind of devote to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I just said sort of touches on that, but also make your time as salient as possible. So don't spend it on 3 platforms, spend it on 1 platform. If you have a couple hours a week, pre-schedule your 12 posts, and then that's that. And you can use programs like later.com, which I believe have a free, I think they have a free membership before you get into the paid membership. But that's like a scheduling software that allows you to pre-schedule your social media stuff. And that's what a lot of people do. They'll, block out an hour or 2 a week, put their stuff together, and then put it on autopilot and move on. But I think just dedicating time and thinking about it, at least at the beginning, Zara, you're going to be in good shape.
I think one of the things that's really worked for us is doing planning around content. So we developed content pillars. So we know, okay, in a given week, we know what kind of content we're going to be posting, and it becomes a lot easier to develop content when you do the planning ahead of time instead of just kind of doing it in the moment. So that's something that I would probably add to what you said, Melissa.
Yeah.
We've got another question from Nora. She's asking, what's your take on creating a side business while having a regular 8-to-5 job?
My take is that it's pretty normal these days. I mean, I hear it all the time. I will say I will say I had a professor who said, do one thing and do it really well. I didn't take that advice, obviously, because I do like 90 things. But there are times where I find myself being overwhelmed with how much I'm doing. And I always say to myself, if only I was just doing this, I'd be doing it so much better. So if that's the situation that you're in, Nora, like, understand you're not going to be perfect at this. You're not going to have a business that grows at the pace and the scale that someone who's giving it a full-time dedicated effort might be experiencing. But if you're willing and able to not compare yourself to others and take the journey for what it is, you might find that in 3 years or 5 years from now, this can become a full-time thing for you. And you just peppered in time as you had it available and you built something. And if you're willing to make it more of a long-term play, it could really work out beautifully for you.
That's really nice. Love that. Very inspirational. Our next question is about collaborations. So what are some things that entrepreneurs should go into having a discussion around collaborations with? Like, what do they need to think about as they're heading into their first discussion with a potential partner?
Yeah. So, if you're collaborating with, a charity or something along those lines, you probably won't have to pay. If you're collaborating with an influencer, there's a really good chance it's going to cost you. So you'd have to be prepared for that. Now, will it cost you in hard dollars up front? Potentially. You could also say, let's go 50-50. You work really hard at marketing this to your audience. I'll do the production work, and we split, everything after costs, we split 50-50. That could be an option too. And then you can say, I'm a small business, you're an influencer, like, let's see what we can do together. Obviously these things are so much easier to do with bigger budgets, but they are definitely doable on smaller budgets. It's just about being creative and also going in and understanding what you'll face. So, if you go to an established influencer, you should show up prepared to know that they might want to charge you. But if you go to a smaller influencer, they might not charge you, or they might charge you hundreds instead of thousands. So it could work out much better for you to work with 3 smaller influencers than 1 medium-sized or large-sized influencer.
And our second last question, anybody who has a burning question should put it in the Q&A right now. But our second last question comes from Christina, and she's asking how the pandemic has affected or changed your business model, if at all.
Oh God. Well, my cleaning service has taken like the biggest hit it's taken in 15 years. We survived the 2008 financial crisis, and our business actually grew 5-fold that year. And I was like, if we can survive that, we can survive anything. And then the pandemic hit, and we hung on by a thread. And what I know to be true is this: we're good people. We do a good thing. Our clients love what we do. They want to support us. Let's be honest. People are going to want their houses cleaned. I know that hasn't changed. So we know our business will pick up, but we had to significantly scale back our operating expenses. We had to let people go, which sucked. We had to, we just had to cut a lot of expenses right down to the bare minimum. And that, frankly, is the life cycle of a business. And God willing, we'll never see another pandemic again. And my other 2 businesses, the products business really struggled with product coming in from overseas. I'm sure a lot of people have heard about the shipping crisis that's going on overseas with shipping containers. That put us behind by several months. It'll probably slash our annual revenues in half year over year. But it's fine. We know we'll recover. And then our digital business had a banner year because everyone wanted to know about cleaning. So the pandemic was like a very weird time for us, and one we hope to never see again.
But I like the point that you made about the fact that it is cyclical, and it's hard to imagine anything, everything that could possibly happen, but kind of having some buffer in your budgets and some buffer in your forecasts and stuff can help to mitigate some of these things. And then part of it is about, like you said, cutting costs, being creative, expanding revenue streams. And, I think that a lot of the stuff that you touched upon today could help entrepreneurs to kind of overcome something like that. Yeah, so, okay. So unfortunately, we don't have any more time for questions. I just want to thank you so much, Melissa, for coming in. And I really like how in the presentation you broke it down and you made it so easy for us to understand like this new age of digital marketing and like what it takes to really build a successful brand and how we can use platforms like YouTube to do that. So thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. I'm so glad to be here. And for everyone who's watching and everyone in the Ella program, I wish you guys all the luck and success and happiness, and just remember to stay balanced, because building your business is one thing, but take good care of yourself too.
Absolutely. And just before we go, we have a quick poll just to see how you found today's session. So if you can just let us know what you thought about today's session, and we'll use the results to help us plan other amazing sessions. And also want to let you know that we have applications open for our later stage program, Altitude. It's an accelerator program for women-led product and service-based businesses. And if you're interested to learn more, scan the QR code. It'll take you to our website. We also dropped it in the chat. Really hope that we can support some of the people in the audience through that program. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us today, and really appreciate it. And have a great day, everybody. Thank you. Take care. Bye.